concept I don't talk about much on this channel is how much I enjoy competition with games. From ladder climbing ranked to watching massive esports events, one of the most appealing things to me about gaming as an entire medium is mastery of mechanics and seeing how people can excel above everyone else. And for this reason, Neon White is exactly what I needed in a time where I haven't really been feeling like playing that many games. It lets me feel like I have the capacity to become one of the best in the world at it, and this is reinforced by how its core gameplay loop essentially teaches players how to become a speedrunner. And while becoming the best might be a very far off reality, the work to get there feels tangible, and that's what is most important. In Neon White, you play as a recently deceased assassin named White, who must compete against other assassins for a place in heaven. What this sets up for is a series of quick-fire missions, based around its unique card as guns mechanic. Each card is its own gun that can shoot a different kind of projectile and has an alternative fire that offers a series of movement sets through levels. The catch is using the movement will deplete the card of all its ammo, making players min-max bullets and movements in a quick series of decisions. In order to progress, the game requires snap reactions on when to shoot enemies or to get to that hard to reach place to keep going. However, at no point does the game feel overwhelming mechanically, as it gradually introduces new mechanics, enemies, and obstacles, almost always right after you have mastered the previous set of ideas, adding to your knowledge in a natural way. The big selling point of the game to me is the leaderboards, showing your friends' times, and if you do well enough on a specific mission, the global leaderboards. To begin with, there are 4 tiers of medals like most games with rankings around time or performance. Bronze, silver, gold, and ace, which is the highest medal you could conceivably achieve. All of this is so extremely carefully thought out in a way that drip feeds you enough to instill a need to push yourself because you want to, not because the game is forcing you. Well, at least to some degree. The game is split up into missions, each containing a varying number of jobs to complete, and unlocking new missions requires getting a certain neon rank, which players can improve by getting golds or aces on individual levels. It's pretty loose, so people who don't feel that competitive drive can feasibly achieve the minimal level of mastery required, since you only need a gold time, not the highest ace, in order to get a better rank. For me and many others though, gold times are just the beginning. There is a little meter attached to each job called insight. Getting insight on a level, as the name suggests, lets you see more things. When you get a gold medal, you unlock a hint on how to do what would be considered speedrun tech in a lot of games, skipping past what was initially the intended path in a way you may never have thought of before. It gives even the most unseasoned of players a little glimpse of the mind of a speedrunner breaking games open for optimal times. Ace times then give you a look at the global leaderboard, which can be pretty demoralizing if you're not prepared. Topping your friends list times, but then checking the global stats to see you're a full 10, sometimes more seconds behind the best times in a game where every microsecond counts can feel overwhelming, but that is where a lot of the time the fun comes in and the true test of each job starts. If I could distill Neon White down to one word as to why I am deeply addicted to it, it's optimization. Once you reach the ace time and decide to push further up the ladder, you will need to find every millisecond you can. Oftentimes though, and what feels the most rewarding, is the path to ace that Insight offers is only a small piece of the full optimized path to true mastery of a job. These insights offer tactics to add to your base understanding of the game that you can apply to future levels as well as ones you've already completed in order to be as efficient as possible. Something I haven't mentioned until now is not only do you need to get through levels fast, but you also need to kill every demon on a map before the exit is available to you. This leads to a lot of problem solving of taking a shortcut but still needing to have the kill. In some cases this leads to sniping just the very top of a hitbox from a far distance. Other times it leads to quick inventory management of which of the 2 guns you will have enough ammo to make the kill faster. In general, it makes interesting puzzles that really can push you to your limits. The last job of Mission 6, Race, is a perfect example of this. It starts with hitting an enemy that sets off a chain reaction, constantly killing others until it reaches the end, at which point it destroys your only platform out to the exit. It's extremely tense, and upon completing it as fast as I thought possible given that it's running on its own internal timer, was blown away to see Global and Friends scores much higher than mine. Since this is so cool to figure out, I won't spoil the solution, but the fact this isn't an isolated thing for puzzling levels really speaks to the care and consideration for level design. Every single corner of a map can be combed with a fine-tooth brush, and finding every single second and even split second of save time is a reward within itself. So much so that once you start really shaving times down, a new hidden medal starts to show itself: the red ace. While as far as I know this isn't explicitly stated, I can only assume it is the developer times, as a way for developers to signal to players, this is the way I optimize the level, but there is always more. Something that I appreciate about this is you don't know, at least within the game itself, what time is needed to achieve a red ace. You just have to rely on the skills and knowledge you yourself require in order to really lower your time as much as possible until it appears. Knowing you missed out on a time by 0.1 of a second could take the wind out of your sails, but that ambiguity gives you a push to keep going and finding more and more little skips and tricks and card combinations to just get that little bit faster. I personally only have limited experience with the art of speedrunning itself. I dipped my toes into games like Ghost Runner, Super Mario 64, and Unsighted, but for different reasons never submitted my times. To be honest, I just like knowing I could do something, so I don't feel the need for validation via letters, but with that said, Neon White makes me feel like a pro. Finding out little tricks on my own, like how falling for a certain amount of time will speed you up, so using the stomp card in situations might be slower than building momentum, or getting a handle on tricks that I was told by friends, like how shooting enemy projectiles offers a slight bit of speed. As I write this, and in the first few days it will be out, the giant speedrunning event SGDQ is currently on. And Neon White makes me feel as cool as some of these runners' tricks during this showcase looks. Figuring out that you can make a quick kill on an enemy and within a few frames use that same card to gain air time to cut out a portion of a map feels like some tech someone on the GDQ couch would explain to the audience in awe. There's a lot here that will make anyone from first-time speedrunners to hobbyists to seasoned veterans satisfied with their sense of personal progression. Although discovering things yourself is satisfying, I would be lying if I said I didn't rely on YouTube videos of people much better than me to find the optimal path. Take for example the job in Mission 3, Canals. Canals is a pretty straightforward seeming job on the surface, and at least early on is one of the longer missions. It has an ace time of 40 seconds and a red ace time of 30.07 seconds, which compared to most that came before it is very long. I personally had a hard time cracking the path to get red ace, so I looked up a video on YouTube to find it could be done quite easily in almost half the developer time. This really speaks to not only the hard work of discovery of others, but just the sheer creativity and problem solving capabilities that go into speedrunning. And while this idea of looking up times might not be for everyone, I appreciate seeing something get done quickly and testing my abilities to do it myself, since it isn't an easy guide to get good. I still haven't managed to master some of the ways to get reds on all levels just yet after studying some videos. It just pushes me to really want to get there no matter what. At the end of the day, despite it being an extremely competitive thing, speedrunning is built on the backs of their communities. It would be a much more boring thing if runners weren't sharing ideas to push not only themselves but others to match their level. A rising tide raises all ship, as it were, and the idea of studying Neon White YouTube videos feels like the beginning of the community building around this game. While it's still a relatively new indie game, the community around Neon White is growing constantly, and it's been amazing to see new names appear on leaderboards, not only from my friends list but also on the global charts. As long as people keep taunting me on Twitter or through Discord DMs, I don't think I will ever be done pushing myself to be one of the best in the world on certain missions. And that is a feat not many games can achieve for me. A sense of never being done with getting better is usually a spot reserved for PvP games. But I guess speedrunning is a form of PvP, constantly throwing down gauntlets in a friendly bout to push each other to still get better. I do need to admit before closing this video out that I still haven't finished the game, at least at the time of writing, and yet have managed to drop 20 hours in already. Many of those just spent obsessing over a couple milliseconds on a single level while blasting my own music as loudly as I can. Despite still playing through it right now, this is such an easy recommendation to anyone looking for a new game to get obsessed with. If you haven't picked up Neon White and you feel the game is for you, I would love to see your times and see where we stack up with one another, and maybe it will ignite your passion for speedrunning in other games.